all of the stuff that I've heard all my life from Christians more than anything else, because Buddhists don't really. I was trying to find a rock to sit down. Christians mostly the ones who talk about God. Jews not so much. Buddhists not at all. And the Japanese talk about Kami-sama every now and then, but they mostly talk about spirits. What is God? Is there a God? Well, we can see the world around us. What evidence can we actually gather from life and existence? I've really just determined that there is reality. If you read Deuteronomy, where it says how to identify false prophets, it says a false prophet you will know because he will say things and they will not come to pass. But the actual prophet of God, someone who actually hears God, God is talking to that man, and he is just speaking for God. That is a real prophet, and that is someone who, when he speaks, he says, "This will happen." It happens. That's how you know a prophet from a false prophet, and that's how you know God and God's will, right? But what is it? Like, how do you determine when, like, so why would he say something and it will happen? And it's like, you think about it and it's like, oh, so he's saying like God's just gonna make things happen. But I don't think so. Like, you think, oh, so God wants to make something happen, and then he will tell it to the prophet, and the prophet will say it, and then it's gonna happen. And that's how you know. It's just gonna be something completely out of the ordinary, and it's just gonna happen. And it's because he just commanded this weird thing to happen. And I don't think so. I think that it's something quite far from that. Now, when you live long enough, and I'm 39, I haven't lived 900 years, and I certainly haven't lived 90 years, but I haven't lived 70 years either. If you see something, you see it repeated over and over again, because people have the tendency to commit the same mistakes. Like, even for very mundane, silly things, like, don't fucking tattoo the name of your boy. Don't tattoo your name of your girlfriend. Dude, no. What's going to happen? You're going to break up, and then you're going to have their name there on your freaking ass or wherever. You don't need to have some like go to a mountain and see some spirit of God and him saying, look, I'm gonna say these things and it's gonna happen. No. If God is more than that, if God is more than just like some fairy in the sky, there's more to this. God is not a wizard on a cloud. What is it? Okay. You have reality. Reality is these dogs and these stones and him and me and you and everyone and everything, right? So we all exist, and there's laws that exist. And you have to believe the laws, like the laws of physics. You took lab of physics, right? Physics lab. And you can actually set things in motion and predict them. You can actually do that. The lab in physics is basically telling you the structure of reality. But you also have things in biology, in chemistry, and so forth. You set up this mathematically, you say, okay, well, I put this, and I put this will happen, and it does, because there's laws. There's laws that we have tried a bunch of times. And it's like every time someone tries this, it happens. So let's give that a name. That's not good. Structure of existence. I gave it that name. Zoe. Zoe with a Z, z, in ancient Greek, is the life. So I wanted it to sound like that. Zoe, Soe, structure of existence. It's also Sony Online Entertainment if you like EverQuest. And so it sounds pretty cool on all various ways of seeing Zoe. Structure of existence. That's it. That's geology, that's the sciences that determines, but it's not the entirety of it. Like Rita Sissing Liu, Three Body Problem. There's a second book and a third book. If you go to high science fiction, I love high fantasy, but high science fiction. If you like high science fiction where you get people moving through stars, galaxies, and the whole universe, and like Mass Effect, where you have these creatures that hide when there's a big crunch, they hide somewhere, and that's how they survive pretty much the reset of the universe. That high fantasy. When you get to that, it's like there's so many things that we have no clue. Like, we're gonna get out of this planet, we're gonna start exploring the galaxy, we're start exploring the universe, and who knows what we'll find there. Who knows? We'll continue developing science. Who knows what the hell we'll find out there. But we're definitely, classical physics works on Earth. Classical physics works, for the most part, pretty good here for a normal life, and even in space. And who knows what we will find elsewhere. And as our knowledge of soul advances, we will get more of that knowledge. We will get to know more of the structure of existence, right? So there's it, right? That's God, the structure of existence. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, 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 dun. We found God, that's it. Structure of existence, that it is. But wait, there's more. There's more to this, right? Like, that's it. I mean, maybe the Jews, when you read the Old Testament, you see something there. You see that they were very like, well, this is the world, existence, whatever, and we're gonna try to like follow these rules. Because if you read the basic, the mitzvah, which is the rules that they determined. Thou shalt this, thou shalt do that, thou shalt not do this. Like, you see the rules, and it's like, just they're beyond the laws of physics, right? Like, don't fuck your mom. It's like, why would it say that? How is that not laws of physics? Like, don't fuck your sister, don't fuck your dad, right? But these men, they saw it. They saw, well, if you fuck your mom, you get your mom pregnant. It's gonna be awkward. Thanksgiving dinner is gonna be awkward, but but the babies, they're fucked. Not only in a spiritual sense, where you're like, what? So my brother fucked my mom, and that's me. But they come out deformed. High percentage probability deformed. You pass on these diseases, and those royal families were doing stuff with marrying cousins for generations, and they were all retarded, like really, really bad. So these men in the Iron Age, as Richard Dawkins called them, Iron Age savages, they noticed, hey, we shouldn't fuck our moms or sisters or parents. Like, every time people do this shit, like, the kids come out retarded, and it's super awkward, it's all messed up. There's shit that we shouldn't do, but that's not part of the laws of physics. It's a little bit of biology, of course, and I suppose that if you do so, then maybe there's a small percentage that the kids will come out fine. In one generation, I mean, you keep doing that, it's gonna really be down to 0%, but one generation, maybe it comes out fine, you know. But no, it's almost like these men were grasping at something that was beyond Zoe, beyond the laws of existence. That, my friends, I call reason. Reason goes beyond. I move a little bit and these guys move with me, and then I move a little to the same place and they move. Anyway, reason is beyond that, right? Right? This is something I have struggled with for a long time, because I see that there's something beyond Zoe. I'm not saying, you just like tie the bow there, just wrap it up, package it, say, hey, Zoe is God, okay? We can say, hey, Zoe and like at some type of hyper-dimensional level, maybe Zoe is conscious, right? And so Zoe itself has a consciousness. You could also say, well, what if there's like a separate God? Like there's Zoe, right? But there's a God, a being that moves within Zoe and can change Zoe, and that's what this is, right? And you can say these things. I'm not saying there can't be that. I'm saying that you will need a lot of evidence for that. You're saying, well, what about this? What about in this book, in the Bible, 2,000 years ago, something happened, and someone said that. But read between the lines. Read what is being said, and read beyond what's being said. Use your common sense. That shit that AI does not seem to have, which pisses me off. Use your common sense. What is not being said, but it's there in the writings, and it's not being said. And I guess it's one of those things where you're old enough, and you're like, you see people repeating the same mistakes, and you're like, man, these people, yeah, I know what's gonna happen. Yeah, I know. Okay, yeah, you're gonna get drunk. Dude, don't mix beer with liquor. Okay, well, guess what's gonna happen tomorrow? You're gonna regret it. Whatever. Fucking 16-year-old kids doing crazy shit, and you know what's gonna happen. You know what they're doing, and you tell them, you warn them, hey, don't do. They already did it. Don't do it. It's bad for you. Oh, is it bad? Okay, you tell them, don't smoke. Dude, I had a dad. He drank all the time. And he reached a certain age, his kidneys didn't work, and he died. He's like, yeah. Okay, what happens? They drink all the time, then their kidneys don't work, and then they die. It's like you already see it. You see them smoking, you see emphysema. I mean, doctors can tell you all the time what they see, and they're wise because of that. But sometimes you know, like Cassandra, right? She could see the future, but nobody would believe her. And I know these kids, maybe they believe you or not, but a lot of them they just mostly don't care. let your dogs lick your lips. You're gonna get an infection, you could get sepsis, this or that. No, they don't. And you see them on TikTok. You see them doing this and that. So when these Iron Age savages, I'll try to sit here, so I'm an old man. When these Iron Age savages, they wrote their scribblings on some pieces of parchment or whatever, they were saying more than they were writing. They were almost saying this book is for people who know their stuff, who have lived and seen so many mistakes and made mistakes themselves, and then you'll get it. You'll get it. When you read it, you'll get it. You'll just get it. You'll get what you're trying to say. That's, I think, what they were writing. That's the format they chose to write it in. So you see the prophets, they say, when a prophet comes, the things will happen. He will say things. And I believe that is when you connect with reason and wisdom. You reach out higher. And you can say, well, the heavens. Yeah, but it's not literally on a cloud or something. It's something beyond, because we look down and left and right to see our world. We look up and we see something beyond our world, beyond our planet, which it is, the space, the universe, right? We look left and right and down to look at our world. We look up to look at other worlds, something beyond our world. These Iron Age savages, they didn't look up and thought, well, that's a bunch of suns, there's other galaxies, there's nebulas or whatever. They thought there's something beyond there. So they use it as a type of reference, as a symbol to look up into the heavens, to look up, to look beyond the world as we see it. And these men, because they were men, when they wrote, a false prophet is someone who just says crazy shit. They just say a bunch of shit. Like, don't pay attention to them. A real prophet is going to use reason, is going to use wisdom. They're going to use their lives and the lives of others. They're going to use what they lived through. And they're going to say, hey, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. If you keep doing this, this is going to happen. Right. And that's not necessarily some great, special person. Back in those days, rarely anyone lived to 70. I don't care if the Bible said that Methuselah in Spanish, Methuselah in English, whatever. I don't care if it says, no, he lived to 900 or 700 or whenever. Most people in those times lived very short lives, right? Like Hobbes said, life is brutish and short, and a lot of other adjectives. But people lived for their 30s, their 40s, their 50s, and a lot of it was just working. You do the work, grow the plants, you do the work from sun up to sundown. So you didn't have the ability to just go out, party, and read Nietzsche. They didn't have Nietzsche, by the way, in 6000 BC or 4000 BC. They didn't have Nietzsche. They didn't have Plato. They didn't have Aristotle. They didn't have classical mechanics. They did not have a lot of the stuff that we do, and they certainly did not have the farming that we have, where we can just do whatever. We can read, we can watch TikTok, we can learn from the lives of other people. We have a bunch of YouTube shows where it shows like where they just interview people, say I've lived through this and that, and that knowledge, that wisdom is passed down to you. That's something that they didn't have. We have it now. We can become wiser with the lives of others, in spite of all the video games and movies showing us false realities, how things were not or are not, false rules, false laws. We actually get to know people. We have 8 hours of work, and sometimes 4 if you are smart enough. There's this Amazon. If you work for Amazon, there's this way you can work 3 days, 12-hour days, 12-hour shifts, and just 4 days off. And those 4 days off, you can just use them to get wiser, to go to college, to learn more stuff. And that knowledge, that wisdom, will create a stronger, more powerful connection with wisdom, with reason. So what I'm saying is that you have Zoe, but God is beyond Zoe, up in the heavens, right? As a symbol of beyond our common mundane lives. God is, but it's not some wizard, it's not some teapots around Saturn. It's something that exists beyond that. And we have that. And we have that. I mean, I can just go on. I can go toward Gnostics, the spark within you. But then they went off too far. They just said, that spark, that's the only thing that matters. And then everything else is evil. And the rocks are evil, made by an evil God. And the bees are evil. And everything's evil. The sun is evil. Everything's evil. That's how the Gnostics saw the world and reality. And if you like fall, if you're walking and you fall and you hit your face, Yaldabaoth! That's the reality. That's the God. We're slaves. They just took it too far, saying reality, Zoe, is evil. Basically, reality is evil. They just took it too far. Because reality isn't evil, and you suffer, and everything you suffer, you learn from it. So take off suffering. Have a world, a universe. Look at this. Have a universe without suffering. No pain. Have a universe just no suffering. Okay, what happens? Okay, you won't fall, you won't hit your head, you won't go to the hospital. Like, you fall and it's like the world that Rick created for his daughter. Yeah, but there was deeper suffering in that world, right? A world where your girlfriend never breaks up with you. I guess that would be a world where you can't break up with your girlfriend either. Or it's not gonna hurt. There's not gonna be any pain. You fall, so you need to stand up. So you learn how to stand up. This world is beautiful, and I know it's like, whoa, so many people die. Yes, you look around you, and people die, and they're suffering, and we can help that. Look at how many people died at childbirth. And from a cosmic standpoint, big game here. From a cosmic perspective, so many babies are saved because we spent so much time trying to figure things out so that they wouldn't die, so there wouldn't be a bunch of dead babies, so that our babies could just completely live. Penicillin, biology, washing your hands, all those things have some deep stories before and after. And from a cosmic perspective, all all that suffering leads to creating something beyond basic existence. Can you imagine we're in the Iron Age, living in caves, and there's no suffering? Then why even bother with anything? Why bother? Why bother? Just, I'm happy. Let me just grab this perfect fruit that has 100% of all nutrients in my hand and eat it. And I'll just have, no, yeah, just fuck it. Just put me in a freaking machine and it gives me absolute pleasure forever. And that's it. I'll just become myself, a being that just sits, gains pleasure from whatever I'm in, and that's it. I don't do anything. Nothing has meaning. Without all that suffering, nothing has meaning. It's pointless. Why even bother living? That's the Gnostic wet dream. And the Gnostics were cowards. Cowards, I say. They saw the suffering and instead saying, I'm gonna learn from it. They just started blaming God. They started blaming. So and then they did their little reasoning themselves into stupidity. They reason themselves into stupidity. I have no time for people like that. Life without meaning, and that's it. That meaning makes life be worth a lot more. And that's where God is. That meaning, the wisdom, the reasoning, the meaning, the wisdom, the reasoning, they're all connected to the real God beyond Zoe. I call that the Logos. That's where I stop. Because I'm alone on this journey. I'm here in the desert. I don't have any. But these dogs, they don't think about God a lot. They just like eating. You see, I'm trying to put Christ here. I'm trying to figure out, is Christ reasoning? Is Christ, where does Christ come in? Because you see this, damn, long ass video. You see this reality where what died for your sins? What are your sins? Okay, your sins are the shit that you know is bad, right? That's just really what sins are. Shit you know that's bad. It's bad for you. Eating too much will make you, oh God, eating too much all the time, which is one of the sins. Give you diabetes, it's gonna give you hypertension, it's gonna give you this and that. A bunch of diseases. Gluttony, lust, AIDS, gonorrhea. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't enjoy sex. Lust is the beyond just enjoying sex. Like, it doesn't mean, like, gluttony is not you eat something that tastes delicious, right? Gluttony isn't you eat enchiladas or tacos or whatever. That's not gluttony. It tastes good. It's good. You work out. Gluttony is eating too much. And if you are an athlete, 10,000 calories. You eat a freaking pizza, pasta, Chinese food, and you're still like, man, I'm working out every day. I'm gonna eat some more. Then that can be good. I mean, you have to, like, balance things out. But these are very personal. But a sin is eating too much beyond what you need just for pleasure. And that's where it gets. It's like you're doing harm to yourself for pleasure. That's why it's a sin. You're harming yourself. That's what sins are. You're harming yourself for pleasure. Lust is not, I'm gonna enjoy sex and yeah. No. Lust is like you just going and if you've ever harmed yourself with sex for pleasure, you know what I'm talking about. Pride isn't like, oh, it's actually hubris. I don't think it's pride, it's hubris. It's just, that's like one of the most ancient sins. You think you're so arrogant. You think, ha ha ha, it's me, I'm so powerful. Pride, hubris, being prideful. It's not like, oh, I made like this painting and it looks cool, it's of my childhood, it had some meaning and whatever, and I employed this technique and people see it in school and they say, hey, that's pretty good painting, and you're like, I'm proud of it. That's not pride as a sin. Hubris is pride as a sin. So the sins are basically harming yourself. You're harming yourself for pleasure, for arrogance, for feeling superior. Well, for pride is usually that. It's usually sins are some type of harm. You're harming yourself. That's why it's a sin. If you're not harming yourself, then it's not a sin. But you could be harming yourself on the long game. So just be careful with that. So you have these sins and you know they're bad, but you use your reasoning to figure out what's a sin, what's bad for you, what's good for you. You do. But if you're a savage, like a lot of people today are not thinking straight. They just do crazy shit. They don't follow their reasoning. They follow their instincts, like lower level shit. So they follow their instincts and and there's people who just do that. They're almost like animals. I mean, that's why the Jews for so long have said goy with such hatred, because there's these people who are, I mean, whenever I meet a Jew and we have conversations, they're always like really happy, like of how I engage them, how I ask them about things. I've never seen them, I mean, maybe behind my back, but I don't think so, honestly. Sometimes they invite you to their home to eat. You're like, oh, thanks. It's not like I went and asked them. They really just enjoy your company. So they don't talk shit about you. They don't talk shit about you if you actually use reasoning. But they do if you're one of these people who just is like an animal. They just depend on their instincts. They're just instinctual people. So if you are someone who is just instincts like an animal, you're basically killing Christ, right? If Christ is reason, and you yourself employ your reason every day to say things to yourself, you're like, okay, can I employ my reason? How do I get things done? What do I do? Your path is based, your own path that you're writing for yourself is based on reason. Then you're following Christ. But if it's based on instincts, on not caring, on not giving a fuck, and just doing whatever feels right, you're crucifying Christ. Your sins, your instinct will always lead you to your sins. Instinct, I've been moving all this time my hand, but I guess it doesn't. Whatever. Instinct. Your instinct is gonna lead you to sins. puppy's very tired. The puppy's very tired. Your instinct leads you to sins. I'm gonna eat like dogs, kind of like dogs. You know how dogs eat? They just eat whatever's on the plate as much as they can, and they don't care if they harm themselves. They'll just eat the whole thing. And they could get fat. I mean, sure, if you just keep throwing stuff on the plate, just throwing a bunch of stuff and fat and butter and meat, they'll just keep eating and eating and eating, and they'll get fatter and fatter and fatter until they get a heart attack. That's instincts. But so that's dogs, and dogs will just fuck on the street with some bitch, and they'll be like, oh, I don't care. They don't even think of it. They don't reason. So we have the capacity to reason. They don't. Animals do not reason. Maybe dolphins. I don't know what's up with that. But certainly the CIA could tell us more about that. Dolphins are just... I'm not going to talk about dolphins. But we can reason. There's a amount of neurons and a certain structure that neurons have in an animal that where it permits them to think things through and reason. But you know where I'm getting with it? You know where I'm going with this? If you follow your reasoning, you know what sins are, you know what things are bad for you, you're gonna just follow that. But the people who follow their instinct, they follow their basic desires, they're crucifying the Christ within them. The Christ within them, they're crucifying it. They're stabbing him with a javelin within them. And they're saying, I'm not going to use reasoning in my life. I'm going to behave like an animal. And I mean, I'm not saying we should kill all animals, for fuck's sake. I love animals. I love them, from the little butterflies and the ladybugs. I love them in my garden. I love animals. They are God's blessing. I don't know, man. I'm trying to say something else about who you are and how you behave. We have that within us, the capacity for reason. We can follow reason, or we can not follow reason. If we follow reasoning, we are following Christ. We are following, saying, hey, we're not going to commit sin. Reason always leads you to not commit sin, because you're harming yourself with sin. So if you don't follow Christ, if you don't follow your reason, then you're following sinful behavior, because behavior that harms yourself, that harms you, whether it's on the short term or long term. So that's where I see it. There's Zoe, there's God, which is this beyond thing, up, beyond the mundane. And there's Christ, which is way connected to us, to our life. And there's this thing where you can only get to the Father through the Son. And that's what I mean by Christ. And I've been breaking my head for my entire life to try to figure this out, to try to figure how all these things connect. And more recently, I've been, because my friend Russ, he got into the Bible and stuff, and I just been reading a lot of Gnostic texts and Bible and all of these things that to trying to make sense of existence, of life, of Zoe with a Z. Zoe leads to Zoe. At least that's what seems to be. Well, yeah, so that's what is God. What is God in its full entire thing. And I wish I had this video when I was 15, because when I was 15 I was thinking about these things, but I just didn't have the knowledge or the life experience to, I guess I want to keep talking, because you're like, where do you leave all these things about Christ? Where do you leave where do you leave the kindness, the turn the other cheek, the Sermon on the Mount? And I try to explain these things to people. The Uber driver, when I'm going around, I try to explain it to them what these things are. Holy shit! Just blanked out. So there was this moment with the Sermon on the Mount, and I think that moment is extremely important. It's important because I love history. I love the Roman culture. I love to study the ancient, the Germans see this and think it looks cool. I would rather have the forest, a dark forest like Germany forest. But I mean, certainly the desert has its charms. But these bushes kind of look like my beard. Upside down versions of my beard. So when you study the ancients, their culture and the culture that we have today are completely different. We have a culture where we see a puppy in the street and we feel sad. We see a person who needs medical attention, and we say, we take them to the ER, right, to help them. The Romans would never do something like that. Holy fuck! Look, the Romans were all about strength and power. The Egyptians were the same. Heck, even the Greeks were the same. In spite of all their philosophy, ultimately, the Greek people were like that. The people in the Picts in the northern Europe, the Parthians, the Hindu, they're all about strength and power. And there's a lot to be said about Hindu people and Plato and Christ, and there's connection to Hindu culture, and that's really cool rabbit hole you can dig into. So then my philosophy professor was like, nah, Plato went to freaking India, and in India he got these ideas because Aristotle was Greek. He was like the Greeks, but Plato he seemed like he fell out of the sky. Plato was so weird and had such different ideas. But yeah, eventually they all merged the Neoplatonic ideas with Christians, with the Jewish people, and this Christianity hybrid came up, and it's all weird and shit. But look, most, if not all, civilizations on Earth, yeah, even Hindi, even in India, I mean, they fucking throw you to a river when you're dead there. They're about power. It's a lot like nature. you see nature and you see some coyotes eating an animal, and they're like, well, the strong live and the weak die. That's life. That's Zoe, right? Even Zoe. That's how the structure of the universe functions. The strong take over. They kill the poor, the weak. The rich control and kick the poor. But Christ is like, nah, fam, nah. Blessed be, blessed, and he goes to the Beatitudes, where it was a weird word. It just means that, blessed be the poor, blessed be the weak, and he's like, we shouldn't be like nature. We shouldn't be like nature. Fuck that. We shouldn't use that to sort of structure our lives like that. We shouldn't. Let's be different. Let's be kind to the weak. Let's be kind. Let's be kind to the puppy. Let's be kind. Let's be kind to people who need something. Let's be kind to the condemned, to the cursed, to the needy. Let's screw the rest of that. And that changes everything. Because reason, to a certain extent, tells you, just if you have power, crush the weak and whatever. Yeah, but look, if you kill someone, their kid's gonna hunt you forever. The kid's gonna want to kill you, and then they kill you, and then your kid goes and wants to kill him, and then a never-ending story, right? We learned from the first Greek texts, Greek plays, the never-ending story of has thousands of years of I killed this guy, and now you kill, the strong. What? Look at slavery in America. Like, you had a bunch of slaves, and you're like, yeah, I'm strong, I'm powerful, I'm rich, I'm gonna fuck these bitches, and beat up these niggers, and fuck the nigger woman. And what does that cost? It causes misery. That's what. Because you can't go outside, because you're there with a fucking shotgun. No one's gonna try to do anything to you. But once you go to sleep, those guys are gonna want to kill you. They all want to kill you. So what do you have left? This whole thing of controlling people, of obsessing over crushing the weak, of all of these things. Dude, just chill. Like, you want power, can you imagine if at 48 minutes this whole thing did not record anything? That would suck. But my point is that in that moment when Jesus Christ, right, in this story, which are stories, I don't think any of this actually happened, but if it did, that would be so freaking cool. In that moment, it's when civilization changes, and it starts being a civilization led by our basest instincts, and it stops being from our basest instincts, and it starts being from a higher reasoning, a reasoning beyond, above. Man, that looks beautiful. Certainly has its charm, but you see, that's the smoke. Some motherfucking burning trash. They're burning trash. Tijuana, So at that point, when you have these people saying, it could have been just one dude, Jesus of Nazareth, but he's all like, you know what? He has his team, he has his crew, he has his 12 disciples. Who knows? Maybe there were 1,200 disciples. Who knows? We don't know, and it's stupid try to just make your entire life just based on the factual matters when you can't have factual matters until we build some time machine or whatever. uh, if that's even possible, maybe we could record what we see in the stars, and if we find other planets with other civilizations, we record what they're doing, especially if they're in a Stone Age or whatever. And eventually they'll do the same to us. And maybe when we meet, they'll say, hey, we recorded everything what was happening on Earth, all the light, we captured it and we saw it. And then we say, oh, okay, well, we have records of your planet and everything that you guys were doing these past few billion years. And so that we have records recorded everything that happened in your planet, and then we can trade histories, because they have the record from their vantage point. They received all the light from our planet, so they could actually see everything that was happening on planet Earth 2,000 years ago, 6,000 years ago, whatever. And we'll see them, and we'll trade, and we'll actually be able to see from above, from satellite imagery, what was going on. Well, let's go to the year 0. Were there any crucifixions? Was anyone there? Okay, let's see on our computers. Maybe maybe that's really a possibility of space travel, where we're actually trying to get to other places so they can tell us our history and if these things happen or what happened, so we can study our own development. But until that, I don't think there's any point on trying to get to the facts. What we have, the facts that we have are more important, which are 2,000 years ago, there were people that changed civilization forever, that stopped concentrating on having life and culture and government and society be based on instinct and our most basest instincts, and instead create something higher, something with reasoning, with Christ, right? Something beyond, above what we see happening in nature. Let's not behave like lions. In the past, they used lions or the elephants as their symbols, saying our family behaves like lions, like Lannisters. Our family behaves like this or like that, and then they try to be mighty like tigers and dragons, and we behave like these animals. And then Christ changed everything. Christ being the concentration of just let's not do that. Let's instead behave this other way. Read the Sermon on the Mount. That's why I think Christianity is important. And I guess I would consider myself a Christian, but no one will believe me. Because I see it in a way completely different from literally all the Christian sects. In fact, I see it more like I Gnostic. No, sort of, a little bit. I got a little bit of Gnosticism, a little bit of Judaism, a little bit of Buddhism. Whole wheel, trying to get out of it, whatever. But a little bit of everything. Dogs are asleep. It's a really... I can hear birds. I can hear birds in the desert. That direction. So, when you see the words of Jesus Christ, the stuff, look at that whole thing where the Roman soldiers told him, you have to carry this for a mile. And then Christ is like, if they want you, they force you to carry this for a mile, carry it for 2 miles. And you're like, why would he do that? But you see the effect on the long term. It's what it does within you, what it does within them. Oh, within them, within their reasoning, within their spark, divine spark that they have within themselves. I guess I can talk about more of these little details that I've tried sort of put together and figured out as I'm figuring existence, right? But right now I'm trying to read The Secret Teachings of All Ages and getting into Freemasonic stuff, but I'm pretty much set on that, on my beliefs, on my ideas. That's what makes sense to me. This comes from lots and stuff. At this point, I'm just getting to know other stuff and just fine-tuning, like when you do with AI, the AI that runs in your computer. You fine-tune it to be more what you want it to be. And so, yeah, that's what God is. What God is. What is God? Oh, what God is. Because I'm not asking what is God anymore. I'm pretty much stating it, which might be the greatest hubris I've ever done. Like, yeah, I figured out what God is. God is this thing. Well, shit. Hopefully I won't get crucified or Epsteined. Alright, nigga out.